Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is episode 20 now of Powered for .tv Big Fight Weekly, your weekly dose around the world of combat sports. I am Stu Palmer with my co-host and cousin Chris Hume. How are we, Chris?
Yeah, good, man, good.
And I think we're going to get straight into it. Triller Fight Club Legends 2, the main event. Vitor Belfort defeating boxing standout for many, many years. Evander Holyfield, a 58-year-old Evander Holyfield, though, Chris. What were your thoughts on the first round KO?
Oh, to be honest with you, where do you start with this? As you say, Evander Holyfield is a 58-year-old man. I couldn't fathom the last time he was in a boxing ring. You know what I mean? I just think it was so disrespectful for his career, because in hindsight, you know, he's an icon, he's a legend, and what he's done in the boxing, you know, the community for so many years, you know, it's gigantic. You know, just remember all his fights back in the past. You know, everyone will remember him and Mike Tyson, and to fight Belfort, a juice head. I have to say this because I agree with everything Michael Bisping's ever said about Vitor Belfort, and it looked to me like he's back on a TRT because his body looks completely different to the same body I saw in his last UFC fight against Lyoto Machida. But this fight was awful. Did you see the Holyfield hitting the pads for the build up to the fight?
I didn't personally, but I can only imagine. Didn't need to be in there. But no, then they're saying, did he need a payday? But
he would have got a couple of mil for it, wouldn't he? But him hitting the pads, it was horrible to see, mate. And you could see from that. I mean, he's an older man, isn't he? You know, as you say, did he need to be there? Did he need to jump in? No. There's a person on the card we'll talk about in a few short minutes who should have really jumped and took the fight, really. But this fight it was awful. You know, you go from Evander Holyfield, he backed Belfort up against the ropes, didn't he? And he went for a hook, and it was such an awful hook. He nearly pushed himself out the rope, through the ropes, out, to the outside. People at the commission, and I know we got turned down by one commission, didn't he? And then he had to move to Florida. That commission, I don't get how they've granted him a boxing license. They shouldn't have granted it, and I mean, it's just horrible to see because you know what I mean.
Surely all the boards, the boxing boards across the states should be working along the same line, shouldn't they?
But they don't know, do they? And this is the issue. And you know what I mean, Belfort's not exactly a young Springer, is he? But you know what I mean,
he's in his 40s.
He's still in his prime-ish, wouldn't you say? You know, Evander Holyfield has been and gone, and you know he's nearly a 60-year-old man. I didn't like it. I thought it was just disrespectful for his career, and I think really disrespectful for boxing itself, and to the commissions for him to be allowed to take this fight. And I got to give him respect. You know, he didn't have to do it. And Oscar De La Hoya, did he get COVID or did he have COVID coke? Who knows with Oscar De La Hoya? But it's just like, obviously Belfort wobbled him. Belfort was hitting him uppercuts, wasn't he? And it was typical what Belfort would do in an MMA fight. He'd always be fury at you, like a flurry, constant attacks in the first round. That's what Belfort's always been like. He comes hard and comes fast, really, start the fight. And he did that, he wobbled him, didn't he? Then he dropped him. And then we finished him standing up, didn't he? I know Evander Holyfield's come out and complained, saying he could have carried on, but did you want to see that carry on? Because I personally didn't want to see it carry on. It's a farce, and Triller should be embarrassed. I think Holyfield probably embarrassed. I think you as a boxing fan, you idolize Holyfield for what he's done for
He's Hall of Fame. He's Hall of Fame. Do you know what I mean? It's simple as that. But
throwing it in the bin.
Money issues, we've heard about this for years with him, but that's his personal thing at the end of the day, that's personal to him. I look at him, the boxer, went up from cruiserweight, did fantastic at heavyweight, it was sad. It's sad. I think we've got to roll the VT because obviously Jake Paul's name is getting bandied about, Belfort and Jake Paul. Now, if you want to roll the VT, Chris, for the viewers, just to see what he thinks.
Yeah, I'll bring it up now. This is Brett's mate, Jake Paul.
Vitor Belfort. What are your thoughts on that? Yeah, look, this guy's desperate. He's desperate for attention. He's been begging to fight me since 2017. I went back when he called me out and I looked in the DMs, and he's been sending me DMs for like 3 years. Like, hey, come to my gym. Hey, I think we should train. We should set up a fight.
Vitor you're talking about. Vitor.
Yeah, Vitor. Yeah. Just in my DMs nonstop. I think he has like some weird obsession with me. But he's old and washed up, and he's smart. He's doing anything he can to get clout. And if they want to put $30 million into escrow, and I talk to Steven Espinoza and be like, yo, Steven, let's go rob the bank. It could be a possibility, but honestly, Triller doesn't have that money. There's no possible way. So
what we've taken away from that in regards to Triller, firstly, he said they haven't got the money there in place. I think they probably have, but he holds the card as much.
Yeah, he does.
I've slated for weeks and weeks, and Brett loves the Pauls, and I'm sure we're going to get some comments from him further down the line. But
I'm sure we will.
He holds the cards for many fights, bar Conor McGregor, as we've stated before. What are your thoughts and feelings of what you were saying, Chris, there with ESPN, MMA, and boxing?
To be honest with you, you're all right. He does hold the cards for certain fighters. He doesn't with obviously Conor McGregor, as you say. But he's always said to me, well, not to me personally, but I remember when he fought Ben Askren, and that was for Triller, wasn't it? And he made out that Triller made loads of money, and Triller have all this money, and they're paying him this and that. This is before the Showtime contract, wasn't it? And it's funny for him to come back and say, well, they can't afford it. From what I read, is he wasn't happy with Triller, and obviously I think it's the case that Showtime were a bigger network, aren't they? And they have a massive boxing, boxing as a whole on Showtime. So I can see why he's gone there, and I can see why Showtime have done it. Triller could afford it. Triller, you know what I mean? They had Donald Trump there. Do you mean that can't be cheap?
I've heard some bad stuff about that, with it being, September the 11th as well, why he was doing that. And I've heard that's a story for a different day. But Mr. Trump was there in a commentary aspect. But sorry.
But they had 50 Cent on co-commentary with Todd Grisham, wasn't he? So they can afford these people. It's not. I don't think it's money. I just don't think Jake Paul versus Vitor Belfort sells to me personally. It doesn't, and I think he beats Vitor Belfort as well, because he just has to. Yeah, completely. Because if you didn't see enough against Evander Holyfield, Evander Holyfield's an old man. He's been there and done it. Shouldn't have been there with Vitor Belfort. But if you're putting him with someone a bit, younger and has, got better boxing skills, and because, Jake Paul at this point in time can throw a punch better than Evander Holyfield, because Evander Holyfield's older. And you saw in that fight against Belfort, Evander Holyfield's punches were like, pillows, weren't they? And there's no disrespect and not been horrible to Evander Holyfield. No. But he's old, and, your body can only withstand so much. I think he beats Vitor Belfort, because all you have to do is get through the first round, and Vitor Belfort's spent then after that. And unless, again, he's taking that TRT, which, to me, it looks very likely.
I took away him saying he's been in my DMs for 3 years. Do you think that's bollocks on Jake Paul's part? To train with him now, not in necessarily to get in the ring and box, have a bout with him. Do you believe there was direct messages from Belfort asking for him 3 years ago?
Maybe, I don't know. I don't know 3 years. No. But possibly, because him and Logan are, big names, aren't they, in the social media sort of platforms. And you have Jake or Logan at your gym. It doesn't matter if you're an MMA boxing fan or a football player or football fan, sorry. If you're fixated on the Paul brothers, you're going to watch it, aren't you? It's simple as that. The fight won't happen. I think, in hindsight, people were more clammed to a Tommy Fury versus Jake Paul, or Jorge Masvidal versus Jake Paul, because that's been banded about, hasn't it? I would definitely watch it. Absolutely. Yeah. You go back to like Rocky, don't you? And the whole Jorge Masvidal sort of feeling to that is if he dies, he dies, and that's the mentality I get in Jorge Masvidal if he fought Jake Paul. No, the whole Belfort Jake Paul thing isn't going to happen. No. You know what I mean? Maybe Anderson Silva versus Vitor Belfort 2 in a boxing ring could possibly happen.
I think that's perfect to move us on to item number 2 on the show, which is Anderson Silva. And as you quoted in this headline, turns Tito Ortiz's lights out. Another first round KO on the Triller card. And Chris, I'll go straight to you about this. Anderson Silva, who beat Chavez Jr., who was a pro boxer for many years prior to this. Another win. And I know your thoughts and feelings on Tito Ortiz, but what are your thoughts of this one on the Triller Fight Club Legends 2 card?
Tito Ortiz is not a striker, and I said this when we first broke the news of the fight, I think a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? We were a bit like, where's this come from, sort of thing. I think Ron brought it and tagged us, didn't he? And listen, Tito is a fantastic wrestler. Tito is very good at ground and pound. Tito has never been good at stand-up. You can watch all his fights throughout his career. You rarely see him stand in a pocket and fight and strike with someone. You know what I mean? He'd always take you with a double leg or a single leg, or you bounce you up against the cage and bring you down that way and then beat you up that way. Anderson Silva is like, I say this, and people might disagree, but I think he's like a modern day Bruce Lee in his prime. Not maybe so now, but he moved like he was still in his prime in this fight. I suppose it wasn't too hard. I thought Tito looked very stiff in this fight. As a boxer coming forward, he's very stiff. There was no movement with Tito. There was no head movement. You know what I mean? He was shooting down the barrel at Anderson Silva. I think me and you both would know this for Anderson Silva's fighting career. You don't go straight at Anderson Silva and throw punches. You have to sort of work them out and angle your punches against Anderson Silva. You can't just go in there and throw.
Do you think that might have been panic on Tito's end? And he thought, I'm going to have to come at him regardless if I get KO'd very quickly. Why didn't he be a bit more defensive? Because he was always going to have stuff coming back at him regardless, do you think?
Well, yeah, that maybe he was panicking a bit and thinking, I need to get him out quickly before he finds his feet. Because, Anderson Silva is always notorious for taking about, a round to figure you out. And then once he's figured you out, his game plan comes in then, doesn't it? And then he, 9 times out of 10 would beat his opponent. In this fight, Anderson Silva, head movement alone controlled the fight. And, he likes to toy with people. And, he backs himself into the corner, like he did against Chavez, backs himself in the corner and come on. And he used his head movement. He would ducked in, ducked out. He did get caught a couple of times, but again, I don't think Tito's punches were anything malicious in him.
Nothing power-worthy, is there?
No. He bobbed him in that corner. And I think at that point, Anderson Silva just thought, I've had enough now. And he hit him with a 2-punch combo, turned the lights out, and Tito goes, doesn't agree with the stoppage. Okay. But you've been knocked out, so I don't know how you don't agree with the stoppage. So
his head was probably scrambled.
But then he calls up Logan Paul and wants to fight Logan Paul next. So I never understand Tito Ortiz. I don't. Fantastic fighter in his day. Got a lot of eyes on the UFC. Him and Chuck Liddell back in the day. And I appreciate all that. He was him, and Chuck Liddell was the first fight I ever saw. That I fell in love with the UFC. So I always respect him for that. But as a boxer, no. Just go and do something else.
Surely the polls must be looking at Anderson Silva now and thinking this is a brilliant fight for one of them two. He's looking really good. Continues to come away from the cage now. He's always been able to strike. We know that, but it's nice. It's nice to see him in the boxing ring, and he's doing well. He's well into his 40s now. But I'm actually happy about this. I've said over time about this with Triller and the way they book it, and you got real pros out there that should be boxing and should be. I know it's making money. I don't mind Anderson Silva doing this. In all honesty, there's certain guys I don't agree with. But what would you see next for Anderson Silva? Would it be one of the pulls, or does he need another fight before taking the pulls on?
I think Jake Paul's come out and said. I think he was on the MMA Hour with Helwani yesterday. And said, he respected and loved Anderson Silva, like everyone has. Everyone's seen him, over the years in UFC do incredible things. But he said, I'm too young and I'd destroy him. I don't think Jake Paul's fought a striker that's come from MMA that's a natural striker who moves like Anderson Silva. He's not going to move like he, in his heyday. No, I don't know. I don't see Anderson Silva facing a Paul brother. I don't. maybe, like I say, Vitor Belfort, maybe that fight could come because, there was beef there between them. Or he's always wanted that fight against Ray Jones Jr., hasn't he? Anderson Silva's always, for the last, I don't know, could be 5 or 6 years, has always spoken about getting in a boxing ring and fighting Ray Jones Jr., which, again, that could be a fight that could happen. Okay, they're a bit older now, and it would have been great to see them back in their prime. I don't think Anderson Silva gets near Ray Jones Jr. in a boxing ring in his prime, but maybe they could put something like that on. I don't see many point fighting the Paul brothers. If it's just for money, then yeah, okay.
Well,
but
there's got to be something there. I get you. Absolutely.
I'm not sold by certain fighters that want to fight the Paul brothers. Certain fighters, okay, makes sense. Anderson Silva can just trot on doing what he's doing. If he wants to make that money, then yeah, maybe he can pursue a Logan or a Jake Paul sort of fight. But I think he should carry on and maybe get a proper boxer next time around again. Because, he did okay against Chavez. And, I'd like to see him against a proper pro just to see where he's at. Okay, he's not going to be a champion. He's never going to dominate a division like he did in UFC. But he's having fun, and it looks like he's having fun. He's enjoying himself. So let him continue.
Absolutely. Chris, anything in the comments from the viewers? Anything?
Yeah. We have
Ramel, Miro TV. Sup, guys? All the way from the Philippines. Friend of the show. He's been on the show as well. Huge combat sports fan. Him and Chris have got to do a watch along for the UFC soon as well, which we have got a big card imminent ready. I think you got to do a watch along. You and Ron.
Usman and Covington. Me and Rom are in discussions.
Great. It's Isaac, pseudonym Tyler T. Big dogs are in town. Hi, lads. All the way from Norwich. Isaac watches every week. Friend of the show, friend of mine. Yeah. Should be up in November for a beer. Back up to North Wales. Mike, Mad Dog Angus. Hi. Hey, lads. Hope you're well. All right, Michael. Yeah, Michael's been busy. Loads of wrestling bookings since the shows have started up. So, yeah, he was at Wrestle Carnival with Johners this past Sunday. I'm hearing rumours of Johners taking on Heidi Katrina. Any thoughts on that? Well, he's been doing the interview, Mike. Maybe he should get in a ring intergender match with Heidi Katrina. That could be quite something. Absolutely. We'll have to get Johners' take on that. Lewis Young. Hi. All right, Lewis.
I do, Lewis, mate.
Saw you were at ICW last week. They were running the show, so good to see you getting out and about, matey. And you're always on there viewing the shows. That's cool. Albert Barlow from Chi-Town, Chicago, host of the Art Party, Yellow. Obviously, in reference to your T-shirt.
No.
Right.
It's just something me and Don, his fellow co-host of Art Party, and we call him Yellow because he's always, instead of being blue, he's very yellow. Like a Simpson colour.
It's an in-house thing.
It's an in-house thing.
Miro TV, Silva still has a lot to offer in the striking game, especially in boxing. But in MMA, not anymore. I think no one can tell somebody when they're finished in MMA, Chris. And, he went in with a lot of the younger guys later on. We've discussed this, haven't we, about Silva's MMA career. He's took losses when he didn't need to take the losses, but who's going to tell one of the legends of the sport? But I kind of like the fact that he's gone into boxing. It's perfect for him, isn't it? Your thoughts? I know we've spoken about this many times.
Yeah, who would have thought after his loss against Uriah Hall at KO, we'd see Anderson Silva back doing, martial arts or any sort of combat sports, because it was quite a bad KO, and he took a couple of losses, didn't he, against Cannonier with the leg kicks, and it's difficult, watching that. But like I said, I'm happy to see him happy. I'm trying to say that phrase is right. I'm happy to see him happy boxing and enjoying himself. Do you know what I mean? So long may it continue. Just hope he doesn't get a nasty KO loss. He goes out when he wants to, but he goes out properly and doesn't, hurt himself like certain people do when they carry on a bit too long. That's sort of one thing.
What I like about him as well, as much as he's got power, he's multifaceted in the cage. It's movement as well, isn't it, Chris, with Anderson? He has got movement, and long may it continue with the boxing, as you say. Don't want to see him get, absolutely nastily KO'd. But yeah,
no, I don't want to see him get hurt. I don't. We've seen it in the UFC, and I mean, it's like I say, as long as he's having fun, he's enjoying himself, he's earning a bit of money, and that's I'm happy. I'm content with him.
Absolutely.
We'll go to this one, Stuart.
Yes. David Haye returns after quite a number of years out of the sport against his friend Fournier. Fournier beats him, obviously went the distance, Chris. He then decided to call out Tyson Fury. My problem with that is 2013, he pulled out of the fight with Fury due to an injury. We heard that many times in Haye's career. I respect David Haye, what he did. I think he came in and out the sport too much by the time, he went and faced Bellew. Obviously, he felt him twice, didn't he? I think he was out of the sport too long. Bellew, stayed fighting, and he stayed busy right the way through. I'm not. I don't think off the back of beating Fournier, he was, he's a friend as well of the guy. I just can't see how you can call Tyson Fury out.
No,
it's a bit too late in the day. Bit too late in the day, I would say. What do you think?
I can't even put to words. It's laughable. I mean, as you say, David Haye did incredible things in his prime, but as you say, like a Conor McGregor, didn't capitalize and was in and out the sport, didn't evolve, and you saw fighters like Tyson Fury, Joshua, all come in and take control of the heavyweight division. He's not good enough, and let's be honest, can he stay fit? Can he not get injured in a fight? Because it's the first fight I've seen David Haye in a long time actually not get injured during a fight. But it wasn't difficult for him, was it? He used a jab, and that's circled the ring, and it wasn't much of an entertainment fight. But this is where now I'm going to say this, Stuart, because I'm going to allude back to our very first fight we covered, Belfort and Holyfield. Why didn't David Haye take the fight against Vitor Belfort instead of Evander Holyfield? Fresh, he's younger.
That's a big question, Chris. But
I bet he could.
Yeah.
Obviously, he might not have got the money, the same amount of money Evander Holyfield or Oscar De La Hoya would have got.
No.
But it would have been a bit more entertaining, I think, and it would have been a harder fight for Vitor Belfort because, David Haye's still a good boxer, and a good boxer beats a good MMA fighter in a boxing ring. But yeah, calling out Tyson Fury, give me a break.
Yeah.
No.
I mean, and in fairness to Haye, he's done very well promoting guys. He's had the guys. He's had Joe Joyce. He's had Chisora. I know they've now parted. I think just stick to the promoting now because he's only going to be fighting a level of person now. I don't think he just can't. He won't. He'll get absolutely mutilated against the top end guys at heavyweight. And he was. Yeah. It was happening when he was active. I question it. I question him. Fantastic. The guys he's fought. He got the fight with Klitschko. I know it was obliterated in the end, but
was that toe wasn't it?
No, it always leads to something. It did lead to something. There was toe was bad, and you say it after the fight, but yeah, bit of an iffy one. But I think, Chris, we should turn our attentions to Tyson Fury, and we've got another video here as he plots his course for a planned 4 fights in the next calendar year, and a 5th fight, a rematch with Derek Chisora in 2 years' time to finish his career off. We'll get back to what we think after we've seen this VT.
Do you have a bucket list? Or
yes, I have got me next 4 fights lined up.
Talk to me.
Bang, 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 bang.
Talk to me.
I'm going to destroy Wilder in November. First time Frank's heard it. And then I'm going to take a fight in December because of all the inactivity. Because I don't think the Joshua fight's going to happen in December, is it, Frank?
I would think March.
So yeah, February, March. So here's what my bucket list is. I'm going to fight Wilder in October 9th. I'll fight Dylan White back in the UK for the first time in years at a stadium up the north here somewhere, Manchester or something, in December. Let's get a date in December. I'll shut that bum right up. That'll be an easy one. And then I'll fight Joshua in March time, where it's in Saudi Arabia. Let's do it. And then we can have a rematch in the summer back here at Wembley. And then I'll go out in my last 5th fight. That'll be about however long, 2 years. And I'll fight Derek Chisora. That's 5 fights, yeah? And then I'll take 2 years out the ring. Just going absolutely nuts again, Frank, and I'll come back at 37 and wipe the floor of whoever's next.
You gotta love it. You gotta love the man. I think it's a bit ambitious at world level, at world title level, to be saying you're gonna have 4 fights in a year. But who am I to judge the great Tyson Fury? And, I think because of the inactivity, because of COVID, he wants to strike while the iron's hot, doesn't he? What did you take away from it? Because that's quite the list of guys. I think I wouldn't overlook Dillian Whyte, though, I think, he's got power. I know he's dealt with Wilder's power, the heaviest puncher in the division. But what do you think in terms of that plotting his course for the next year? And then Derek Del Boy Chisora in 2 years' time for a rematch.
I admire his roadmap, should we say? You know what I mean? We all do want to see Joshua versus Tyson Fury. That is the fight we want to see. You know what I mean? Above all else, above Dillian Whyte, above a rematch against Derek Chisora, which I don't understand why you'd even bother with that personally. We want to see Joshua versus Tyson. We want to know who's the best, don't we? Who's the best British heavyweight in this current decade? That's what we want to see. I'm not interested in him versus Wilder 3. Is it in October?
October 9th, 2 weeks after AJ and Usyk.
Is it? Okay. Yeah. Well, it maps up well if Joshua and Tyson can get these fights done, and then we can get into next year. And as he says, March and then the summer to 2 fights. And then Dillian Whyte. We spoke about Dillian Whyte a lot off camera. Dillian Whyte deserves a title shot. Dillian Whyte has done, so much good work in the boxing ring, and it was never given a title shot, and he deserves a title shot. That fight, if he can beat Joshua, maybe that's the fight. I don't know the Derek Chisora fight. I don't get why you'd want to fight him again, because
I think he obviously gets on with him. Then he's took him on before. I think it was like a friendly nod to Chisora. That's what I took away from that. But also, it's saying he's going to have 2 years off, go off the rails again, and then turn back up at 37, see who's about, and then he'll take them on as well. He's just slighting them all, and they all train hard. He had these personal
he had his problems,
and he's willing. He'd be willing. It's just the way he says it. Can't help but admire the guy, Chris.
No, you can't. But he's said what he's done, though, hasn't he? He went off the rails. You saw how big he got. He got his head back in the game, and he comes back. Should have beaten Wilder the first fight. He does in the second fight, and he did it flawlessly. And everyone was terrified to fight Wilder. You didn't see Joshua chasing Wilder, did we? You know what I mean? There was rumours here and there, but you never saw him pursue it. Tyson pursued that fight and beat him twice. I like this thing where I think Tyson Fury is going to end up in MMA. So much what his dad said in the build-up to Tyron Woodley and Jake Paul when they were talking about Tommy Fury, and then Dan Hardy asked him about Tyson Fury and MMA, and he seems to think that's where he's headed. Now, listen, Tyson's been in with a few guys, hasn't he? The Darren Tittles, the Conor McGregors, and he's been training, not crazy amounts, but he's dipped his toe in mixed martial arts' pond, and I think he likes it. And I wouldn't be shocked to see if he had 1 or 2 fights in say UFC, because I don't think UFC would turn him down. I think UFC would probably happily take him. But
because he's so long and gangly, what happens when someone's going to be able to take him down very quickly? Would be my thing to say to you. What how do you feel he'd get on in there?
Well, in terms of grappling, a short guy is harder to submit and take down than a longer guy. A taller, rangier guy, it's easier to grab hold of one part of a limb to submit or take down. As in, a short guy can cover a bit more and protect himself. When you're a bit gangly, a bit longer, you still got a lot of body weight to sort of maneuver. He'll do well. I don't think he'll do fantastic, but if he can keep it standing, he'd beat probably everybody. But you're not going to get that in MMA, or Tyson Fury's going to come straight into UFC and expect the likes of say Stipe Miocic or Jon Jones to come strike with him, or let's say Tom Aspinall. I know that Tom Aspinall did some training with Tommy Fury not long back as well, boxing training. Listen, it'd be interesting to see how he gets on. It'd be, for me, it'd be nice to see a big time boxer come over to MMA than a big time MMA fighter come over to boxing. Just so we can have that conversation to say, can a boxer actually in their prime do well in an octagon. Not a James Toney where he's finished. An actual someone who's still in their prime that can actually do some damage.
He surrenders his 0 though, doesn't he? He surrenders his undefeated thing coming into it. So would he do that? Would he be prepared? I think
he would.
Yeah. Oh, that's
I think he would. I think he would. Yeah. We'll see that in a couple of years down the line. But he can't get too old. We've seen two people come into MMA and be too old and struggle with what the competition they're up against. Don't forget now. We spoke about UFC heavyweight and how it's moving now, isn't it? You're getting a lot of young blood in the heavyweight division now. So if he wanted to get into UFC and he wanted to be in heavyweight, because obviously he's going to have to be a heavyweight, he's going to have to do it quicker and then not too late, sort of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, as I say, he's plotting his course, 4 fights in a calendar year. To see a heavyweight do that, a world champion as well, defending the titles, if it all goes well for him, it's typical Tyson Fury. All the best to him, if it does happen, because I don't think it's probably been done before at that level in boxing. And moving on. Are we moving on to Anthony Joshua?
We are, mate. We are.
Yes, we are. So September 25th. So next weekend, the fight will be happening at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And yes, Joshua basically weighing up, Usyk transitioning from, as Tony Bellew stated, the best cruiserweight ever in Alexander Usyk, going up to heavyweight. Obviously, we've seen him have a couple of fights now, but a huge test for him. This is what AJ had to say yesterday on Sky about Usyk.
How's the mental approach going towards fighting a southpaw of Usyk's caliber, what he's done as an amateur and as a cruiserweight? What's the mindset there?
So what he's done as a cruiserweight, Archie Moore come up from light heavy to heavyweight, fought some of the great fighters. All boxers can move up weight. Some fighters kind of say, I feel better at the bigger weight, I carry more power, I feel fresher. Do you know what I mean? He's not having to make weight. So I've kind of, in my mind, I've removed away the conversation about this is the heavyweight and he's a cruiserweight. I get that, but I like to challenge myself. So I said, let's remove that out of the way and let's look at where I am at skill-wise, technical-wise, because I've got what I already have anyway, the strength. I've got that. Since I come in boxing in 2008, I kind of had a rapid rise, and that's maybe due to the fact of sheer strength.
Mental strength and heart.
Sheer size and heart, taking on massive challenges early.
So there you have it. He wants to challenge himself. Usyk, complete boxer. I totally understand it, Chris. I think what Tony Bellew was alluding to on TalkSport earlier last Thursday, was the longer that fight goes on, it's going to be harder for Usyk. He thinks if that gets to like round 6, round 7, that's where AJ's power is going to come through. But I'm still a bit skeptical, mate. I think Usyk can trouble him. I really do. What are your thoughts?
He does struggle with the shorter guy, though, doesn't he, Anthony Joshua? He does struggle with the shorter guy, and Usyk is a very talented boxer, and he does a lot of damage on the inside. Does Usyk? He doesn't shoot range, does he? Comes inside, and fights, in the phone box, comes to strike hard. That sort of striking is like the Egerton fight that we're gonna talk about after this. But they both are fighting inside in like a phone box, and Usyk's very good at that. I'm very talented at getting inside and getting in those shots. Joshua does, like I say, struggle with the smaller guy because he has to punch down, doesn't he? But you can't count Joshua out though, because he's been there and done it, and he's fought almost everybody. And apart from Andy Ruiz, who again, I don't know if you've seen pictures, Stuart, looks fantastic now.
He does look very trimmed as Andy Ruiz, and yes. I saw a comment on a page saying, how does he get on against Usyk? Well, he gave up in the first fight against Ruiz. Somebody put that out there. It's a tough one. It's a tough one, and I think on the flip side of what Bellew was saying, because in the fight with Usyk and Bellew at cruiserweight, Usyk got better as the rounds went on. Bellew had a good start, settled well. So then you've got that on the flip side. What can Usyk do if he hasn't been put away early by Joshua with Joshua's notable power?
Well, that's just the thing. Has Usyk fought anyone with the power of AJ? I don't think he has he? Not a lot of fighters don't, don't fight a power punch until they do, and then they don't realize how hard these people hit. And, it then becomes a mental game in your head is, can I take a punch from Joshua? But Joshua's chin is a bit, he can get chinned, can Joshua, and he can go on wobbly legs if he's caught, right. It's a dangerous fight for him because, this could be another one that throws a spanner in the works for him and Tyson Fury. Because, you couldn't tell me now that fight still isn't in the back of his head. Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay, he's looking at Usyk, but he's also got to be thinking, I got to beat Usyk because I want to shut up Tyson Fury and I want to be that guy. That's still got to be there ticking away in the back of his head.
I just wonder in terms of time frame now, because if Fury does take on White, which he's saying it can do it in December, which 2 months out, depending on how long this fight goes with Wilder, and he gets through the fight with Wilder. I know he's heavy favourite, but then it's getting Joshua and Fury together. If it's all ifs and buts, isn't it? With Joshua beating Usyk, just hope they can get it done where it's next summer and we get to see the first fight or maybe the second fight by then.
Something, yeah. It's annoying that it's dragged on this long now. Just to think, if nothing actually happened, from June, July, we would have seen the first fight by now. And this is what's frustrating.
We had the rug pulled from under us, didn't they? When Wilder and the promotions team look, we're going to exercise our fight clause, which is just ridiculous because everyone was set for the big one, weren't they? Mm-hmm. But we shall see, Chris.
Yeah, and then we're back on this show, but he's trying to make if and buts if this fight's going to happen. But we'll, hopefully it will. Right, we'll Absolutely. Move on. We'll move on, Stuart.
Well, Friday evening, I got in from work. Sam Egginton was on Channel 5 here in the UK with what is being called the fight of the year, I think in UK terms, as he retains his WBC Silva welterweight title with a split decision over Belal Jakitu. Unbelievable. What an absolute barn burner of a fight this was, Chris. As you said and alluded to just a few seconds ago, it's like fighting in a phone box. It's what it's all about. Sam Egginton's eyes. Oh, my God. How he was getting shots off, I don't know. His eyes were literally closing up.
Yeah.
What an advert for European boxing. And he improves to 31-7 to Sam Egginton. He's always just not quite got to the elite. But heart and determination, you can't question with Sam Egginton.
No. Well, they were both, fighting on the inside. Like I said, in the phone box, just trading, absolutely just trading, and no one was taking a step back. You got to give your props to the pair of them because they both just were throwing leather, and no one was backing down, no one dropped, no one wobbled. And maybe a slight from Egginton. I think he got caught. I think in the third round, and a slight wobble, but they went back straight against each other, back on that inside, back in the phone box, and just carried on for the whole entire fight. It was brilliant to see. Those sort of fights are just great to watch, mate. Great to watch.
Jakitu was undefeated as well before that fight. He was 15-0. So, Sam Egginton, he's always been knocking on the door. He's beaten Paulie Malignaggi. I know Paulie Malignaggi was towards the end of his career when they fought. But, that was quite a big scalp back, fair few years ago now. He's one of them fighters, heart, determination. The epitome of a British person, I think. Like typified with the way he boxes. Some people, to his detriment, they say there's just nothing there, like defensively sometimes. But he boxes the way he boxes. He'll go out on his shield. That's what I take with him.
Don't forget, Alton Lobov beat Paulie Malignaggi as well.
Bare knuckle.
Yes, it wasn't bare knuckle.
Yeah.
But I don't know if we've got any more comments, actually, Stuart. Actually, here we go. Our big man here.
Miro Ramel, all the way from the Philippines. I'm happy to see Haye back, being a fan of him back in the day. I thought he's one to dethrone Vlad when they fought. Yeah, I got that fight on the pay-per-view. We were away for my mum's 50th cottage, and we got the fight. I remember watching it there, and yeah, it built up that he could do something. And when he won the world title, world title prior to that as well against the big 7-footer.
First 7-4, wasn't he?
Yeah, man. Valuev. So yeah, no, he did fantastic. I'm not disputing what he did. I just think he was out the game too long when he came back, and he was doing other stuff. He was doing TV stuff, celebrity. I'm a Celeb, the Jungle, which we have here in the UK, stuff like that. I think he just kind of just slipped in, passed him by. But you never know. This might be the genesis of him getting back in. I just did that to see.
No,
I just did that to see your reaction.
You're getting my reaction. No, mate, not a chance.
From a promotional standpoint, he's done relatively well. I know he got Michael Venom Page on one of his undercards to box. Coming out of the cage, and it was good to see him boxing actually. Seeing him in a different format.
He's fighting soon as well.
MVP. Absolutely, yeah. Which is October the 1st, isn't it? So yeah.
Do you not think with David Haye could go down the same route as Jake Paul? Jimmy Manowar's called David Haye for quite a few times over the years before he retired. I know Jimmy's chin's also very suspect, but he's a power puncher. Right, he could make money fighting ex-MMA fighters, couldn't he? Surely? No?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an avenue because look how many people are doing it now. It's crazy.
And I think he could sell a fight. Right, we'll move on anyway. To UFC this weekend.
Into the MMA, the UFC. A bit of a preview. Anthony Smith at light heavyweight, 35-16, had many fights prior to coming into the UFC. So that's a big fight as well, hasn't he, Chris? Against Ryan Spann, 19-6, who was on a 2-fight win streak himself. So yes, Chris, what's going to happen in this one in your mind? What do you feel? And what next for the winner?
Right. Well, I don't know what will be next for the winner because we've still got Jan and Glover to fight, haven't we? Until that fight happens, I think the chessboard and the players will start moving then. I think they're due to fight in October, aren't they? Blachowicz, and Glover Teixeira. I like Smith. I've always thought he's been a solid fighter. Against Jon Jones, he could have done a Aljo, couldn't he? And stole the belt off Jon Jones with that knee. He could, but he didn't. And he's lying hot for a reason. Listen, he's had some tough fights as well. He fought Glover Teixeira and got dismantled on the ground by Glover Teixeira. He did struggle with certain fights that could take you down, but he's learning aspects since he's come back. He's had a fight. I think he's on a 4-3 fight win streak at the moment. You saw what he did to Jimmy Crute a few months ago when we had Chile on. We both, all three of us, went through that fight, and he chewed up Jimmy Crute's leg, didn't he? Where Jimmy Crute couldn't carry on, even though he wanted to. He did really well. Nick Spann is a power puncher. He's not going to. I don't think he's going to go for a takedown on Anthony Smith. He's going to go and throw, hard lever at Anthony Smith. I think Anthony Smith's got a solid chin. I didn't realize this, but Anthony Smith hasn't been knocked out. He's been TKO'd, but knocked out by being punched in, by the chin. He hasn't been knocked out since 2011, and that was in Strikeforce. He's been in there with power punches as well, I just think he can take Nick Spann's punches. And Nick Spann is, once he's got out that first round, I don't know if you've watched his fights before, he does spend a lot of energy in that first round trying to finish, and he doesn't push the pace. Then he slows down a lot, and I think Anthony Smith can push the pace. Anthony Smith can take him down and submit him. And I think that's probably where we'll finish it this weekend. I think Anthony Smith will take him down. Anthony Smith will probably finish him round 2 or 3. I think that's how it will play out. Anthony Smith's 6th in the rankings at the moment. I think a lot of the fighters above him are booked up anyway. I think I could say once Jan Blachowicz and Glover Teixeira's fight finished, and then I think the cards can be moved around then. And then because I don't know in my own head who's got the clear picture for the number 1 contender after this fight, after Jan and Glover fought. I don't know who has, because it's not very clear. But Anthony Smith, if he wins this, he can get back on the ladder and fight the winner. Maybe if it's spectacular, you never know with UFC.
Absolutely, he's a good family man him as well. Whenever they've done when they followed him in the training camps and stuff, when I've seen videos, the epitome of an All-American, Anthony Smith for me. Yeah, as you say, big fight that as well. Big fight. But as you say, light heavy above him, there's some absolute killers.
Yeah, I think it's and this is a weird one because we spoke about when Khabib left the division or GSP, they were reigning dominant champions, and some people think, is the division going to sort of survive after them? And the divisions did. I don't know if light heavyweight at this very point in time can survive about Jon Jones. And that's just my point of view.
Does Dana not think of this then when he's looking at him to go into the heavyweight division, which he's getting set to do? But obviously, they took that decision now, haven't they? But I can see what you're saying. Regardless of what he's done outside of the cage, he's still a legend.
He's
the magnet. He's the pull, isn't he?
You got Yuri Prochazka, haven't you? Who looked very, very good. Yeah. He's really talented and someone I'm really interested to see where he goes in the division. But if you can look at the rankings, there isn't anyone really that stands out. Where Jon Jones cleared it all out, though, didn't he? And did it more than once. I feel like if Jon Jones goes and wins a title at heavyweight, I think he will relinquish that. I don't think he'll defend it. I don't think he'll go back down, or he'll disappear.
Why would he relinquish it after winning it?
I think it's a case like with it's a double champion, isn't it? So it solidifies his Hall of Fame, his GOAT status, doesn't it? If you look at it that way. Jon Jones has got to get past the likes of Ngannou. Miocic is obviously trying to get back, and he's putting weight on, isn't he? So he's going to be a bit heavier. We've got a lot of fighters coming through the heavyweight ranking. So heavyweight at the moment, exciting as it's ever been. And it'd be interesting once Jon Jones has dropped in there properly now, and we see him fight at heavyweight. It could go different ways, can't it? But the light heavyweight needs a bit more. We need more of the youth coming through. We need some new, standout fighters coming through. Maybe another Brit would be great in light heavyweight because I don't think we've even got one at light heavyweight. That's notable.
And the amount of UK fighters that are coming through now, we need everyone in all divisions, as you say, don't we? It's exciting. That's exciting.
I feel like when we speak about it, we spoke about the UK fighters last week. This is the best we've had as a group of fighters that have been in the UFC. Because they're not, like I said to you last week, they're not the strikers. They're not sort of fighters that are going to get taken down and then struggle on the ground then. They're so multifaceted, with all their skill sets. Jack Shaw, Arnold Allen, Paddy as well. They're all well skilled in different areas. So, them getting taken down isn't a crisis moment. They know how to get back up. They know how to get a submission if one comes available. So, the future's bright for UK MMA. There is one more fight, Stuart, I wanted to bring up that's been announced.
Fire it up. We've got time, Chris. Open weight bout. Oh, my God. What was that all about the other night? What is going on?
I woke up to that at 10 to 5 in the morning, so I'm having my brew. I'm getting ready for work. And I'm having my vape, and I'm scrolling down, Twitter, and then I'm seeing Conor McGregor and MGK have a spit. But he's obviously seen Conor McGregor throw a drink at him. But I'm reading sort of conflicting reports. It's either MGK pushed him because he asked for a photograph. Does Conor McGregor need to go and ask someone for a photograph? Do you know what I mean? It's just weird. But then you've got, apparently MGK pushed him. And I'm like, hold on, mate. You might think you're a gangster, but you're pushing a real fighter here, yeah? Who could, have you drinking out of a straw for many a months. I just thought it was just weird. But it's just Conor being Conor again, isn't it? Out of control. Why was it MTV Awards? Why does he need to be there?
It doesn't particularly need to be there, but he's very much for anything in the limelight, isn't he? And that's the only thing I can think of. But yeah, why these things happen, I don't know. Was it staged though? Was it quote unquote staged? That's what you got to ask yourself. And, for what reasons, I don't know why they need to stage it. But yeah, it's Hollywood, isn't it? He needs to concentrate on his career. And as you said to me, there's still 2 fights left on his contract with UFC.
So I think he's done after that, mate. I think he's done after that.
Yeah, because he's just prattling about. He's prattling about. He's not like there's nothing.
He's wasting years. He's wasting years. Okay, it can't be up to got injured. But to be fair to him, he looks like he's recovered quite quickly from the ankle break. He's got 2 fights left in his UFC contract. I can't see Conor McGregor staying in the UFC after that, unless he somehow rekindles somewhat of the old Conor. He'll never get that back, but somewhat of it, I could challenge again. I think when he comes back, it won't be Dustin Poirier fight again, because if Dustin Poirier is the champion, there's no way UFC put. Well, actually, maybe they would actually it being Conor McGregor, and if they're about that,
it's got to be Diaz 3.
I think Diaz beats Conor McGregor.
I just think they know it's gonna. They know it'll draw, don't they? Regardless of where standing.
You know where this all falls down to, don't you? And what we'll end up seeing, end up having to cover on here, and Brett will love it because I can see it a mile off now.
Yeah,
it's going to be Conor McGregor versus Jake Paul. That is what it's all going to fall down to because he's. It's horrible to see him decline so fast because he went up like a rocket. We're not to say in the UFC, in Cage Warriors, he was damn good. So, it wasn't just UFC machine that pushed him. He was already on that tear in Cage Warriors before he got to UFC. And, fighters will lose fights. But the way he loses fights, he loses the plot. And then you've got him punching old men, drugs, fighting bloody drug dealers. And then, the whole fights with MGK, the whole bus incident with Khabib, fighting with Khabib's people in the octagon after the fight. It's like, mate, just chill. Go and find yourself again. How many times he has to go and find himself? Just come back as a fighter. You don't need to be anything else. You can be whatever you want after your career's finished. That's my rant there.
I just find it very weird that he just continues with this stuff. The celebrity side of life, that's him. Have we got a comment? Have we got some comments there for us?
Got one, and that is from John.
Hello, John. One of the head honchos at powered4.tv. We thank you for allowing us to have the platform each and every week with Big Fight Weekly. We appreciate you. Good to have you on the show. Commenting, John. Absolutely, absolutely. Chris, I've got one question for you. What was your most favourite card of all time in the UFC? Where top to bottom, everything delivered. There wasn't like a substandard bout in there. I know this is quite a general one, but is there any one that you could pluck out out the sky there that you'd say, yeah, that was the one where every match was just incredible? Maybe main card, maybe rather than saying prelims and early prelims.
There was a card in Australia a few years ago, and I think it was Rousey versus... That's it. And,
it was a big one, wasn't it? The big Etihad Stadium in Australia.
50,000 people, yeah. And it wasn't like, I think they were the biggest names on the card, but every fight in that card had a finish. But I'm not asked about a fight if there's no finish, as long as it's
if it's a brilliant bout, it's a brilliant bout. If they've showcased
it's back and forwards, that's it.
All their skills.
Yeah, that's it. And I think every fight on that card had a finish. And not all the time you get that. I think we've had a couple this year, actually, have had a finish in every single fight in the card. But it was just because it was historic for me because I've been watching UFC for so long. I haven't ever really witnessed a card where there's been a finish. But every fight was really competitive in the whole card. But I think that was the card in Australia. Yeah. It wasn't anyone notable, though. It was just...
They all went for it.
Everyone came for it, and because I think it was the first time in the Etihad as well. Lord knew what was going to happen with Ronda Rousey and Holmes in that fight. That changed the whole landscape of the ladies' division at that point. And obviously it was hot potato, wasn't it? After Ronda Rousey lost the title, and then Amanda Nunes just grown into that spot and completely, controlled it. But yeah. But there's been a few fights, here and there that have stole shows. UFC's a hard one though, because it's not like certain sports where it's like one a month or one a week, you're getting 4 or 5 a month in a way, aren't you? And recently the cards have been really good. Some of the main events have been a bit dodgy. This main event this weekend, Smith and Spann, I wouldn't class it really as a main event fight, but there's so much going on, and you have to look at the cards coming up. The Volkanovski versus Ortega card next week, the return of Nick Diaz. Those fights are just really intriguing. I'm interested in Volkanovski and Ortega, but I'm taken away now by Nick Diaz coming back. And is he going to be the same guy? Robbie Lawler, we all know, has been a staple for so long, has fought the best. That was what I was going to say. I'm just going to close out on that. What we've got coming up next week, obviously, we'll be previewing the huge UFC card, as you've said there, and then we've got obviously Joshua and Usyk finally on Saturday evening as well, which will be on a little bit earlier. So yeah, we'll be previewing that next week. Anything more to add, mate, before we go? Socials, anything happening? Not really. I'm gonna still say, obviously said this last week, I'm still gonna work on getting us a Twitter and an Instagram page, so all you guys can follow us. If you don't use Facebook and you use Instagram and Twitter instead, at some point I am gonna make us a page for Big Fight Weekly, so you guys can jump in and share photos, share your greatest moments, share your greatest fights between boxing, MMA. It doesn't have to be boxing, MMA. It could be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, it could be karate, it could be Taekwondo, it could be any all sort of combat sports you want to share your moment with. But I will sort those pages out for everybody who watches us. And, they can come and join us that way.
Because at the moment we're doing our personal pages, like I'm using the Stu's Wrestling podcast, and Chris has got his own as well. So yeah, it's been all right, hasn't it? But I've been doing it. But obviously, it's a dedicated page then to Big Fight Weekly. So yeah. I can't wait. I can't wait for next week's show. Obviously, we'll be covering more in more depth, previewing UFC, the big fight in the boxing as well. And I've enjoyed it. I'm surprised Brett hasn't commented. No Brett this week.
He might be cutting his grass though on that lawnmower, won't he?
It might be a bit too early for him, mightn't it? But
the sun is out.
He's missed the Jake Paul video.
He would have loved that video. He would have loved it.
I thought this is perfect for him, and Jake Paul did make a lot of sense. I've got to be fair. I've knocked him for months and months and months, but he was talking sense. Absolutely.
No, he doesn't need. I told you, it doesn't need Vitor Belfort. Belfort needs Jake Paul. I think actually a lot of these fighters that come away from UFC, Bellator, One, who are now sort of their eyes are looking at Jake Paul because that is the money fight. He's got it all. He's got the cards. He picks who he wants. Let's just hope it's a boxer he fights next, not an MMA fighter. Just have a boxer on his cards. Oh, look, Brett is here.
Where he's here. The man's here. Oh, I am watching, guys, but I'm at work. Had it on in earphones. Did you hear the video? We give you a minute of Jake Paul. We had the videos of Tyson Fury and AJ, but I thought, you know what? Let's get this in. He's been on. I just can't comment. Right, okay, he's busy doing what he's doing. At least, thanks, Brett. At least he was watching.
Brett.
At least he was watching, eh? But yeah, this has been episode 29 of Powered4.tv.
Hey, milestone next week, Stuart. Episode 30.
Episode 30. You'd have thunk it back in February when we pitched it to Rich and John about doing this. Yeah, mad to think that we're on episode 30 already. Oh, there we go. The super
Thank you very much, Brett. Thank you. We really appreciate it.
Into the Powered4TV coffers. A staunch supporter of this show and obviously a staunch supporter of the polls. But yeah, episode 30 next week. And we've got a lot to cover, haven't we, Chris? We have got a lot to cover next week.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm going to put this up here because Brett deserves to be stuck up here for the £1.79 donation. And thank you very much for that. But you know what, Stuart? We've got so much coming through. The Usyks, and then we've got Joshua. Usyk and Joshua have me. Volkanovski, Ortega. Wilder,
Fury, Bellator, Douglas Lima, and Michael Page, huge card in London.
In the UK. Yeah. And then we've got the amazing card in November. I think it's November the 7th. Usman versus your favourite, Kobe Covington.
There's only one way that's going. But as you said, Covington probably causing the most problems out of everybody.
He did.
In fairness, the guy can fight. I just don't like him. Personally,
well, yeah, can't like everyone though, Stuart. But that card is absolutely stacked to the gills. We've got 2 new signings have been put to that card now. Alex Pereira, who was the last person to KO and clean KO of Izzy. They've just signed him.
Wow.
Yeah. And the guy I told you about yesterday,
the Irish kid.
next big Irish sensation, Ian Geary, Cage Warriors. You can find his fights on YouTube, and he's absolutely something special. He can sell himself, but he's a damn good fighter. And I'm really excited to see what Ian Geary can put in once he's arrived in the UFC.
If you're touting him now so early on, he's going to be decent. Absolutely. You said it about Conor. You said it about Conor for years before he came in. So, once again, thank you for the super sticker. We appreciate it, man. We appreciate it. Really, you've watched this every week. Incredible. And episode 30 next week. Chris, do you want to plug your socials?
You can find me on Twitter at Van Hume. You can find me on Instagram at VanHume86. And as always, at the bottom of your screen, scrolling across here, you can find me and Stuart on Powered 4's Big Fight Weekly page on Facebook. Come in, share things again. Speak about things that you love about combat sports. I mean, Stuart, we'll be there to speak back to you.
Absolutely. I'm on a bit of a hiatus for Stu's Wrestling Podcast at the moment, but you can find us across all the podcast platforms. Type in Stu's Wrestling Podcast, 94 episodes for your listening pleasure or your viewing pleasure on YouTube. Ex-WCW guys, WWF, talent from the British scene as well and the European scene. I've had quite the run with the show. It's been incredible. Just having a little break at the moment. We're debating about putting some best bits out of shows leading up to the 100th show. But should be back soon. And just going back to Powered4.tv Big Fight Weekly. Thank you to John and Rich as always. And we will see you. We will see you for the milestone 30th episode of Powered4.tv Big Fight Weekly next week with myself and Chris.
See you next week.